And that was just where it really fell apart as well for Noxious, is that the lack of pressure onto the mid lane Nox, despite having Chernobog and Achilles. And again, that's mostly credited, I think, to Lake's choice of start and not so much on Mango there.
I agree. We'll see if Noxious is able to change up what they have in the draft here as we go into game 2. Noxious still in that first pick position. I think that regardless of the start, though, I'd like to see Lake on a different pick than the Chernobog. I just think that clearly it didn't work for him, and look at that first ban by Noxious to take that away. I just think that there's something... Chernobog is not a plug-and-play character, even though he's obviously very good. I think that the way his auto attacks work, where it comes from both hands, is very different than a lot of other hunters. It's a different kind of feeling for auto attacks. I don't know if you feel the same way.
No, it's incredibly difficult. It's
but I can't hit the broadside of a barn with Cherno auto attacks. I just can't. And it seemed like Lake was having that same problem, where if you don't play enough Chernobog, then it's really hard to land those autos.
It takes a while to get used to that. I do not blame him in the slightest for messing it up if that was a little bit of an unfamiliar pick for him. But again, this is competitive play also, so you can't... It's reasonable to take certain risk, but some are a little bit more over the top than the others.
Well, it does sound like we have a sub, actually, for Noxious. It will not be Lake in this game, but Watson this time around. So a long-time console veteran, one that was playing way back when even I was still playing back in the European side of things. He was playing solo then, mid lane after that, had taken a break, but now coming back for Noxious. We'll see what he decides to go for, but it could change up their draft quite a bit. I mean, having a different player in that mid lane, a different god pool, can really change the course of your entire game.
And looks like that different god pool is already being put to work. The Puch. And Puch is really starting to risen in a lot of mid laners' hearts here, because we've been seeing this pick more and more as each week goes by, Aggro.
You're right, Taco. You're right. It hasn't risen in my heart, I can tell you that much, but it has in a lot of other
You can't give him a chance? Okay, the Nutcracker skin is phenomenal, though.
Dude, the like, spooky little... forest thing, whatever it's called, like that skin is awesome, but I still don't want to play Puch. If I want to play Puch, I should just play Zeus. He's less cool Zeus. That's what he does.
That's what they all say.
Okay, someone actually describes Zeus.
By the way, I lied. It's only what you say.
I know. And someone described Zeus's budget Puch, and that really tilted me because it's actually true right now, and that makes me really upset, and that's why I have a renewed hatred for Puch. He's an okay god. I mean, he's fine. It's fine. I'm not tilted. Ram again for CycloneGG. They take the Baron for themselves this time around. I think that could be going solo with that Ama support. It's been a really, really popular composition on the Pro League, and it's seen a lot of success, so I don't see why Cyclone wouldn't try and emulate it.
A lot of control being added on as well to the Ram, Baron, Samedi combination. I like that the Amaterasu and the Batz can both simultaneously link up their ultimates. If you try and burn out Actus with a dazzling offense, then you still have to worry about that Fear No Evil shortly after. And it gives a lot of similar vibes to that of an Ares Batz combination, except the Amaterasu a little bit more safe, I think.
Well, no hell this time around. Puch the deterrent this time, but instead it'll be the Isis for Cyclone. Is that going to change your mind on who wins this game? Eribiiax on a very different selection, but one that I think is a little bit undervalued right now. I think Isis is in a pretty solid spot in the meta. I mean, early game's so important. Her late game really isn't that bad, and late game sieging is so difficult that Isis's ultimate really does provide a lot of value in that sense.
I can agree for the most part, but I really just want to see what happens first in that mid lane, because an Isis that falls behind, if anything goes wrong in the slightest, if Noxious are actually able to apply the pressure that they were lacking in game 1 onto Eribiiax here, then that could put Cyclone in a pretty tough spot, because recovering on an Isis is just so brutal most of the time, especially when you're already trying to deal with an Puch.
Mango with the Pele this time around, was playing the Achilles last time, an early game god, now going for another early game god in the Pele.
And to be fair, Pele has a lot of similarities to the Achilles. Might even be just a speed demon version of Achilles with the amount of burst damage that you can get going early on. But I like the rotational speed that'll be a possibility now for Mango. I really just want to see if Mango will choose to be a little bit more aggressive here with Watson or not.
Has the Warrior in his lane this time around. It's the same lane matchup, but just swapped. Gnome was under duress most of the game in game 1, at least in lane during the early stages. We'll see if he can kind of emulate that as he also goes for that Maida's Blessing that ChronicThe went for.
Anything you can do, I can do better?
That's the game plan.
That is definitely something Gnome would say to ChronicThe. Also, if you know either of those two players behind the scenes in the slightest, their online personalities and everything, they can both be a handful at times, but for the most part, pretty good guys.
Both mid laners going for the Book of Thoth rush. Isis has always been one that burst metas don't really favor her quite as much. She wants longer fights as a whole, but also because the burst itemization doesn't usually favor her too well, but a Spirit Ball to the dome still gets the job done as Mango, not willing to back down, actually turns and fights just a bit in order to get some healing back. Good understanding of the Pele passive as Eribiiax almost falls to that damage from Watson.
Watson kind of just reminding Eribiiax not to get a little too comfortable here in this mid lane. If he pushes up further than what he can, or further than what Watson wants him to, he could find himself underneath some very heavy pressure here. And now with all that pressure, Pele is actually going to get the better end here of that. Batz is Mango with a successful invade onto NeiI's back piece. Or defense, excuse me, of his own back piece.
Had to get there in time. 2 out of 3 went to NeiI, but the big one going the way of Mango. Davy's already pretty poked in this lane, but Cyclone still has the lane pressure. Baron's Brew, actually only one person partaking on Cyclone Spin. Davy the only one to buy the brew.
Baron's Brew can be nice, but it's not a necessity, and I think that at times the regular mana and health pots can provide a little bit more sustain.
Roll forward from Davies when had the Ama passive on him, and he was going to take more damage from all sources, but still half health Terra at level 2 is not particularly easy to bring down when she's that close to tower range. Purple buff invade attempted by Cyclone, unsuccessful. And now they might have to get on the run because there's help coming. Mango comes screaming down the jungle lane. Switch knocked up and knocked down. Mango, first blood for Noxious yet again.
Eribiiax with the off-the-mark Spirit Ball just goes right in between the pair from Noxious' dual lane, and that's the primary reason why Switch ends up falling. That's rather unfortunate also because Eribiiax invested a rotation, misses out on the wave from mid lane, and wasn't even able to save the life of his support.
That's the problem with Isis at times. I mean, in every mage, if you miss your abilities, they're not going to be very good. That is unequivocally true. But Isis in particular, Spirit Ball is so critical to everything you'd be picking Isis for that if you miss a Spirit Ball, you really do need to reset most fights instantly off of that. And when you're level 4 and your support's on the run, resetting isn't really an option.
Love that rotation, though, from the rest of Noxious. Great recognition there that the dual lane was in a little bit of trouble, or that it was a moment to punish Cyclone for their over-aggression onto that purple buff. Because Cyclone, despite having lost out on the purple buff, I think the moment Noxious came to contest, they should have just walked away. Because a Terra and a Hachiman might get out pressure during the laning phase due to Astral Arrows from Rama and the Amaterasu passive, but they're not going to lose out on objective secure early on. That's incredibly difficult to confirm over the pair, and it was a little bit over the top there from Cyclone.
They paid for it, without a doubt, and we saw the Fear No Evil come down in the mid lane not long ago from NeiI because Mango's beads were still down. Good idea, but had put him into the tower so Eribiiax couldn't drop Circle of Protection in order to try and assist. Both mid laners prioritizing their boots before finishing the Book of Thoth. Opwash, very, very immobile, so really could use that extra 18% movement speed coming from boots. Eribiiax, less about the movement speed, I feel like, because you already get movement speed from Wind Gust whenever you're channeling that first ability, but more just wants to be as aggressive as possible, gives him better position to be and buff invades or follow up off Fear No Evil pretty easily.
Also, survivability can go a long ways for an Isis, even in the early game.
Sure. Having
boots could be all the difference between having a Book of Thoth rush, because sure, you get plenty of power, but that doesn't necessarily amount to a whole lot of movement speed. And when there's a Pele on the board, you can never have too much movement speed.
The fastest god, well, not quite, because Mercury is still there, but
let's all be real.
He's
been scammed out of it.
He kind of has been. I mean, Magma Rush is a hell of an ability. Fear No Evil on the right-hand side. ChronicThe did not keep the CC chain going, and Gnome actually will be able to get out of there with help from Somersault Cloud. Eribiiax needed to use Circle of Protection and still had to walk out of it. Empty the Crypt's a little bit too good at killing you if you stay in one area. So Cyclone again forced to back in the mid lane. It's really going to start to affect him pretty soon. Now he's still pretty even with Watson in XP per minute, which is surprising. I feel like Watson should be ahead just based on how many times Eribiiax has had to back.
Watson probably not ahead simply because of how much Xuen has been leeching off of the mid lane farm. It's been multiple 2-3-man splits of these early waves. So Watson would probably be at least a level and a half, 2 levels maybe even, up on Eribiiax. It's just that the rest of Noxious have spent so much time splitting farm because they've been wanting to aggress a lot onto Eribiiax that Watson hasn't had the opportunity to get ahead.
That's the easiest way to get me to sub for you. Never again. Hey, can you sub for mid lane? And by the way, we're going to 3-way split all of your waves. Or
at least 2-man, at the very least.
Yeah. You can never solo down a mid wave. We think that's really good for mid laners. I would be like, yeah, I'm really busy all of a sudden. Like super busy. I really wish I could, but I just really can't, you know. I'm really busy right now.
Look at that poke damage, though, from Mango onto Switch, of all people. The Guardian, the pseudo-Guardian support, I should say, from Switch, because he is running the Warrior Amaterasu, but even against the Pele early on, without much of a chance or without the goal to buy a Sovereignty rush early on, he's just taking as much poke as anybody else, it feels.
Gladiator Shield, the pickup from Mango. He's going to have to rely on a bit of that physical protection because he just got hit by Fear No Evil in the mid lane, but good lord, that damage from Watson was gross. NeiI was there not that long ago, and then Watson decided he didn't want him there anymore.
Well, in case anybody was wondering what the difference is in damage from a Pen Boots rush and a Book of Thoth rush, I hope that answers your question.
That was sick. NeiI was half health, Taco. He was half.
I wouldn't have even guessed that he was half health prior to that. I would have assumed he was already at the 30% mark to have fallen that quickly.
Well, there you go. That's why you pick Opwash, ladies and gentlemen. He does that to you. Also brings anti-heal, excellent area control, slows you down all the time, has creepy voice lines. Like, he kind of does it all.
NeiI might be starting to regret having rushed this Blink early on as opposed to a Beads or an Aegis to try and cleanse the slow or just immune the damage outright.
Yeah, I think Aegis is probably better than Beads in this game. I feel like if I were Eribiiax or NeiI or Davey, I would have gone for the Aegis in particular. There is CC on Noxious, yes, but it's pretty telegraphed CC most of the time, and you can use Aegis to get you out of that danger a lot. Maybe Eribiiax needs the beads because of Terra root, but you're root immune in Wingus, so you can basically just save it for that. I don't know. I feel like Aegis is just a little bit better here.
But now that NeiI has the Blink, can he really afford to buy an Aegis? He kind of just has to risk it for the biscuit each time he goes in and just pray that Watson doesn't decimate his life for it.
I think you still pick up Aegis at 12. I mean, I can't imagine going up against this comp with Beads over Aegis. I agree with you that the Blink, it was optimistic from NeiI. Plus, Hunbatz is a character, I mean, so many junglers rely so heavily on Blink. I don't think Hunbatz is one of them. I mean, you can get in good position to Fear No Evil without it. But we'll see if he can do it now because Gold Fury started by Noxious getting low, below half. Big commit, Noxious are able to get it. Eribiiax never dropped Circle of Protection, used the last of his mana on a Spirit Ball. And Noxious now sprinting forward. Xuen does fall to NeiI as Fear No Evil did some good work on the back. But Mango is going to be able to close this gap pretty easily, you imagine. Seems like he's out of fuel from that Magma Jet. An Eruption can't get the job done. Heavenly Banner can. Pyroclast is able to find the kill on the Switch. Reform Mango trying to box it out and does so successfully. NeiI can't find that kill. Doing a Gold Fury like that in the face of an Isis is like the biggest no-no you could ever give to a team, and Noxious not only do it, but get rewarded for it.
Watson had multiple corpses lined up at the bottom. I believe 3 or 4 corpses were ready to explode as soon as the Gold Fury came within the execute threshold. Eribiiax never even had a chance to drop his ultimate. I don't think we ever even saw the Circle of Protections come out.
No, he didn't. He was really low on mana, and Circle of Protection does cost a decent amount. So maybe Eribiiax didn't have enough and only had enough for the Spirit Ball, so that's why he elected to go for it. But I think that goes back to the decision to not get the Book of Thoth early on. No, it's only 80 at that rank, and let's check out Spirit Ball because I believe it should be about the same. Yeah, 80 at 3 points. So he had enough for Circle of Protection, decided Spirit Ball was his better chance, and we'll agree to disagree on that one.
Eribiiax still being reminded of how much damage Watson's able to put out right now. As Switch going to be forced into that Dazzling Offense just to get Noxious to disengage, but Noxious, they don't really seem to mind all that much. They could be looking to just chase down NeiI here with the counter engage, or even just look to pull the Pyromancer. They've already taken down the Gold Fury with little to no effort, and then found multiple kills against CycloneGG. What's to stop Noxious from having a repeat moment on this Pyromancer?
Noxious is definitely taking a page out of Rival from PC's side of things. Just go for the objective, who cares who ends up getting it. They'll try again, and again, they'll end up securing. ChronicThe does use Life of the Party, but Zwen's able to get Earth and Fury off first. In comes Watson, drops the Crypts, and ChronicThe doing his best to get away, but having trouble. Now meets up with NeiI, and Fear No Evil's pretty good, but not good enough. Gnome does find the kill. Blink Auto gets the job done for NeiI to bring down Mango as Watson threads the needle and ends up missing that Undead Surge. Good damage. Auto attack right after the teleport gets NeiI a second kill. That means 3 in a row for the Hunbat's jungle.
Gnome did everything in his power to try and save the life of Zwen and Mango, but just ran out of mana in the process. Was spamming so much interrupt between his bull form, the Ox transformation, the Tiger stuns, and still Noxious unable to disengage after taking down the Pyromancer.
Noxious really loves just forcing these objectives with very little rhyme or reason, it feels like so far. I mean, it feels like Noxious read the book on how to win competitive Smite games, and that's do objectives. And they were like, okay, we're doing objectives. But they didn't read like they read the chapter title and didn't read the chapter on, you know, force some buff invades. Use those to pull your opponent away from the objective, then do the objective. Win a team fight, then do the objective. They're like, oh no, all we need to do is objectives and we'll win. And so far, they aren't wrong.
It's just, Cyclone are so intimidated by this outpush that they don't even feel comfortable looking to contest the objectives. And that's the main reason why we see Noxious, not just once, but twice now, taking an objective right in the front of Cyclone. There's multiple members from Cyclone that are within the vicinity and can easily contest. It's just that they're concerned about how much damage this outpush does, and Zwen might be having to be forcibly reminded of it as Reform Mango going to bring down Eribiiax, and Zwen still looking to keep pushing forward.
Mango did that all by himself, it looked like. Davy's got to use the ultimate again just to buy himself some time. He's looking to find Hydro from a distance, but Hydro just out of range. Mango with another kill now for Noxious. ChronicThe getting low, Life of the Party, and the party dies, as does ChronicThe. 3 in a row now for Hydro. 3 quick kills for Noxious, and now they can move towards some more objectives.
Mango still wanting to push forward, going to tank out this T1 tower for a couple moments here as Watson won't be able to close the gap with those corpses, which able to avoid those all too easily. And just like that, Noxious one more time, they find a couple of picks and immediately go for the T1 tower. And the timing could not have been more perfect for opening up this map pressure, because look who's back. Just in time, it's the Gold Fury.
Gold Fury spawns at the perfect time for Noxious, and what do you know? They're going right for it, even with Cyclone bearing down. Switch has the ultimate up soon, but it might not be up in time. Gold Fury getting low. Switch doesn't even throw out the reflective mirror. Noxious this time around able to get an Eribiiax. Welcome back. You're dead again. Mango able to chase down and kill the Isis once more. Beads used by Hydro as he's under siege from NeiI, and NeiI forced to give it up. A little bit too much damage coming. Mango doing what he can amidst 3, and he may have been a little bit too aggressive this time, but Magma Rush is right on time, but he's going to meet up with NeiI right underneath. Mango in serious trouble, but still doesn't fall. In fact, Mango looks like he's out of there. NeiI ends up falling. Mango still standing, and CycloneGG are just left wondering what could have been.
It's not going to slow down anytime either. Watson would have gotten credit for the kill onto ChronicThe Bros, but instead that's going to go to Gnome. A great job with all of those slows and disrupts out of Gnome. And Mango, for what it's worth, the fact that he was able to 3v1 for so long inside of the mid lane and just kept the entirety of Cyclone distracted from coming to provide backup from NeiI, because NeiI was aggressing Hydro at the red buff, but it was two separate engagements from Cyclone, and they were just way too spread apart to actually try and effectively back each other up.
It's the build in conjunction with Pele passive, right? I mean, you get so much lifesteal whenever you drop below that threshold. You add in the Soul Eater that he's lifestealing a ton off of every ability now. You add in the Glad Shield, he's getting % health back whenever he hits you with an ability. I mean, this build is designed to do exactly what Mango just did, which is kill you quickly, and then when you turn on me, I will still stay alive and maybe even kill you in return.
It's just disgusting amounts of sustain already online for this Pele. And Noxious, they're looking like they want to turn this to a Game 3 aggro.
They've looked good so far. Eribiiax, on the other hand, not quite as successful on this Isis as he was on the Hell. Bottom of the player damage so far. Below Terra, below Ama, 0-3. And has been late on a couple ultimates. I mean, that last fight in the mid lane at the very beginning of it, it all started because Xuen was solo ulted with Fear No Evil. And if Eribiiax drops the ultimate, uses all of those ticks of damage to charge it all the way up, Xuen probably dies. But instead, Xwen's able to survive, get off Earth and Fury, and then Eribiiax got insta-killed by Mango on the back. Has been rough so far. Rough for Hydro, no beads, and punished quickly. Davey able to get it, but set up nicely by NeiI. It looks like Cyclone will trade out tier 2s. Though Xuen is getting low. Life of the party coming in, but get down, Mr. President. Mango's here to take the ultimate just instead to keep Xuen up and healthy. Two-man root is his reward, but Switch and Chronic still able to escape underneath the Phoenix.
Why does it look like Xuen has had the same HP for the past minute now? Sprint gonna be forced out just in case from Xuen, not wanting to take any further poke damage. He'll be able to back to base, no problem, but all that commitment from Cyclone onto Hydro at their T2 tower, and they didn't even successfully bring it down.
Yeah, the tier 2's still up. Why?
They just backed. They
Maybe they were worried
pushing.
that Noxious is going to get a Phoenix, but they could have gotten tier 2 and gotten Phoenix and been there for the Phoenix defense.
You can tell if somebody's pushing for Phoenix.
Right, yeah, and they were really far away from that being a reality. Cyclone needs every penny they can get at this point. That was 300 gold per player that they left on the table. 5,000 gold is less than this lead feels like. I mean, this feels like an oppressive lead from Noxious. And 5,000 in 19 minutes is a lot, but it's not unlosable. And they'll try to go at the Fire Giant to push it to the point where they couldn't possibly lose. So it looks like Cyclone knows what's going on. I don't know if they can do anything about it. Chronic is coming in, sees the Fire Giant's low. Good stun, and Noxious confirm the Fire Giant just in time. And now they're looking for the fight after the fact. Mounted Archery does good damage. Chronic left up and now no longer with us. Mango able to get that with some Volcanic Lightning. NeiI has to leap away. Fear No Evil already down for him. Davey does end up finally getting that 1,500 on the left-hand side. He's not a part of this fight. And now Noxious is pushing for Phoenix.
Now when Davey's team needs him most, he'll end up back into base here, and Noxious still looking to try and bring down this Firebird on the right-hand side. They've got the one-man advantage, but with a nice Earth and Fury, that could be enough to bring down Switch. No, the walls are going to stop the dash away instead.
That was sick from Xuen, and he stays alive. Phoenix down to about half as Gnome taking it up. Mango kills Davey immediately upon landing. Now looking for Eribiiax, who gets a big Book of the Dead shield, and he'll need every last piece of it. Mango finds himself a double, and the right side Phoenix does fall. Mango still pushing forward, and this time looks like he'll fall. The ticks from Life of the Party are able to secure it, but Chronic immediately dies upon falling off the coffin. Noxious, I don't think, can end here. I mean, Watson isn't here, and there's 3 towers still up, Taco. Switch is respawning. There's no way Noxious can end.
They were thinking about it for a moment, with 4 members of Cyclone dead, and it's just the respawn of Switch being a little bit too close for comfort here. I'm surprised, though, that Hydro actually broke apart from the rest on this disengage. Fear no evil, though, won't be enough to bring him down, as Aegis will be forced out of the Hachiman. Nicely by NeiI there, and Hydro still looking to break away from the rest of his team. And Cyclone know it, so they're looking to give chase. Mounted Archery going to be forced out as a result of Hydro's bad pathing.
That's a little bit before the Phoenix Sieges begin anew, but definitely could have held on to Mounted Archery in that spot. And Aegis, most likely. Noxious now with the commanding lead. They have the right side Phoenix down. And there's still 2 towers left standing. So 7,000 gold for now, but you get 3,000 gold between those 2 tier 2s, and that'll push you up to the dreaded 10k mark.
Cyclone are just so scared to try and fight into Noxious. That's why this lead feels as drastic as it is, even though it really isn't. That's what's crazy, is that this is fairly fightable for Cyclone. It's just that they don't feel confident, and it's very evident, and that's why Noxious continue to just take away every single one of these objectives right in the face of Cyclone, because they're basically asking Cyclone to challenge them. Cyclone hesitates upon that challenge at the Fire Giant, and because they were so far up without a T2 tower there in solo lane, Noxious are able to just run down the members of Cyclone, find 2 picks, and that sets it up for a very easy Phoenix Siege, despite Noxious still having 2 T2 towers to take care of.
Hydro does need to be careful here. Still no relics for him, and look at that, right on top of Hydro. Go all of Cyclone, but he's still up for the moment. Davey looking to remedy that, but can't quite find the shots. Gnome up in the somersault cloud, trying to buy himself a moment as he dives underneath the Phoenix. Aegis forced onto Davey. The reset here, using the healing coming from the Terra. Circle of protection down, and that will get the job done onto Hydro. Finally able to step in and use that circle of protection to its fullest potential. Without the Hunter, that might be enough to force Noxious off this Phoenix.
A Hydro mounted archery straight into the circle of protection. It's going to make that an easy defense for Cyclone this time around. So a little bit of a break. I was
going to say, I didn't see him in circle of protection. How did he
wind up there?
How did he wind up there?
He ran into it with the mounted archery. Very little control from the side to side. I don't think it was his intention originally to barrel straight into that one. But
sure.
Sometimes the stars, they do align, and for Eribiiax, that was the break that Cyclone needed.
Cyclone really just lacking damage. I mean, take a look at the player damage charts. Your Hunter and your mid are 3rd and 4th respectively in the entire game. It's going to be hard to win. NeiI is holding top damage and has done relevant damage so far, but the mid and Hunter for Cyclone is not doing quite enough in the damage department yet.
Davey can deal damage, especially with that pickup of the chin size now. The problem is, the second that Davey pushes forward, you just see Mango instantly collapse on him. And that has been the main swing of pace in a lot of these team fights, is watching Mango just reinitiate immediately onto the back line, utilizing that Magma Rush speed to close the distance between himself and anybody, or any of the carries from Cyclone, honestly. And it's been causing so many different issues for Cyclone, because ChronicThe Bros isn't on this own Wukong any longer. It's a lot harder for him to interrupt a full-on dive with this Baron. He expends the life of the party, sure, but outside of that, not a whole lot to stop him, or to stop Mango from trying to commit onto Davey or Eribiiax.
Mango doesn't even look like he has that much damage. I mean, his build is super cheap. Void Shield being the most expensive, and then the next being Soul Eater. After that, everything is, what, 2,100 gold or less in the build. So he doesn't have a lot of stats, at least in the power department, to really worry about. It's a lot of survivability. It's a lot of utility in the build, but he's not gonna insta-kill you that often, at least at this point. In the early game when his base damage is not sure, but now you've got enough natural protection and items to return that Mango shouldn't be able to do what he has been allowed to do, which is just get onto the back line and kill them instantly.
Switch gonna dash out way ahead of everybody else, dazzling a fence straight into the back line, but that won't force anybody's relics because no one else from Cyclone's nearby to help out.
Really good ultimate from Watson prevents that from happening. This time Mounted Archery keeps Hydro safe and sound. Xuen brought in via Life of the Party and Fear No Evil, but still no follow-up damage coming from the rest of Cyclone. Gnome trying to put the finishing touches on a Davey, but Davey finds a way to roll into the fountain. Chronic finds a way to roll into the grave. Hydro with his 6th kill. And now Noxious looking for Phoenix number 2.
Mango tanking up the Phoenix to start. Doesn't want to spread the control over to Hydro. And with the wave just now starting to rush in here, Davey's going to go up into that Astral Barrage looking for poke damage, but it does almost nothing to Xuen. Mid-Phoenix already fallen. Circle of Protections onto Reform. Mango still not enough damage to bring down anybody from Noxious.
Cyclone just don't have the damage. I mean, it's 4 members of Noxious, then all 5 members of Cyclone, and then Xuen in the player damage. That really tells the whole story to me. Now Cyclone Phoenix-less, and their base completely exposed. CycloneGG now really on the ropes. It looks like Noxious ready to force game 3.
It's just a matter of time. Waiting for the next Fire Giant respawn is probably what's going to boil down to. Noxious could potentially look, and I kind of want to see them do this as well, since they have all 3 Phoenixes taken out, to just send members into each lane with this last minute and a half remaining of Fire Giant, because they're back to base. They'll spend whatever gold they just acquired to finish off whatever parts of their build they need to. But after that, Noxious should be pretty free to just push up every single one of these lanes with fire minions, and then the non-stop pressure onto Cyclone's Fountain Room with fire waves, with Noxious looking for picks non-stop. One or the other should end up taking down this Titan.
Noxious in a commanding position. I mean, you mentioned it. They've got options on how to end the game. Cyclone, on the other hand, are very far from winning the game. They are 3 full team wipes from being able to win, I'd say. 1 to get their Phoenixes up, 2 to get a Phoenix down, and then 3 to finally try and end. It's going to be a tall task.
I'd say 4, because even with the second one, I'm not sure that they'd be able to take down a Phoenix without removing those towers first. There's still 3 towers left that Cyclone would have to take care of.
30 seconds left on this Fire Giant buff for Noxious. Mango going to blink in and go straight for the Titan. Empty the Crypts right on top as well, but Circle of Protection is down. Watson still brings down NeiI very, very quickly. And we're going to a game 3. Noxious taking care of business in 28.5 minutes. The mid lane switch up ends up working out for Noxious. Watson had a great game on the up wash.
They tried to hold on to it for as long as they could, but Noxious just weren't willing to stick around and wait any longer, for good reason too. They could have waited for the Fire Giant to wear off, but that just wouldn't have made much sense because they had so long still on that Fire Giant to push into the base pretty freely. They finished off all of their builds, and that was just a quick and easy one. Sealed the deal as soon as they got that 3rd Phoenix.
Who was your MVP in that game? Noxious able to force game 3 and look pretty darn good doing it. I think Mango is an obvious candidate, man. That Pele, it's the fight in mid where he insta-kills Eribiiax, and then the fight is won anyways by Noxious. And then Eribiiax comes back off respawn, and Mango insta-kills him again. And that really set this Isis back. You called it during picks and bans. If this Isis gets behind, you really lose a lot of the effectiveness of that character.
It didn't even feel like Eribiiax was a participating member in that game. He was so delayed on his power spikes that by the time they even came to fruition, it was just way too late because the fences were online for the members of Noxious, and things were just too complicated for him to find a decent circle of protections even, because he was just so far behind on his damage in general that whenever he did get a good one off and there'd be multiple members of Noxious inside of it, it just tickled them.
And it is Mango, your MVP here for game number 2. Pele was last picked in this game, and you wonder why. With a performance like this, Mango played very well. By the way, he interrupted Switch's dash right there with that eruption. That's pretty nasty, and you know, and that really did kind of set the tone for the whole game in that position, that Switch ends up falling that early on.
Pele might have been last pick, but I would be hard-pressed to imagine that this isn't going to be a first ban here from Cyclone.
Yep.
I just don't see any good reason to let Mango have this god again. He's clearly shown how proficient he is on her, and not only that, but he set up so much of what Watson was able to accomplish on this outwash because of how heavily he carried through the early game, that Watson never had to worry about a thing other than spamming corpses and looking for the explosions.
Watson under no pressure all game. The dream as an Opwash. We'll see if what adjustments Cyclone can make as we get ready for Game 3. We're going to go to a quick break, but we'll be right back with the conclusion of this set.